is inTutor. In this video, we are going to be talking about an important concept in C, which is the conditional statements. These are some kind of crucial concepts you should be acquainted with in C programming language. Well, trying to understand conditional statements, you need to know that they allow our programs to execute following a particular condition or criteria. Like you should see them like some kind of decision makers in a C program. So, well, without wasting time, let's see the first conditional statement in C. We are going to be talking about the if statement. Well, the if statement is just it just checks if a condition is true, and then it performs a particular instruction you must have given to it. The structure is just like if with a particular condition, and after the condition we open our braces and then some instructions to perform in case it actually works, and that's just all. So this is actually what happens with this is actually just the syntax for the if conditional statement. Like if this condition is true, then it's going to perform this instruction. If And that's just how it works. So without wasting time, let's actually try to apply that. Well, we say okay. Let's write, for example, a program that gets checks if someone is an adult. Let's say, for example, the person should be above 20 to move in. So if the person is above 20, then he can move in. That's all. So in this particular if statement, we don't actually try to know about what if he is not above 20, what if he is less than 20. It's not actually much of our concern in the if conditional statement. We just check on, is it true? If it's true, we perform something. If it's not true, it's not actually your concern. So in this case, for example, we are going to be saying, okay, we declare a value age that's going to be storing the user's age, and then we declare our main function, the int main, the main function. Give it a void. That's the return type. Then in this particular stuff, this is now where we open our if conditional statement. We say, okay, if the user's age, that's if the age happens to be greater than 20, then we kind of print f, you can enter. Well, let's just give a value to the age. Let's say, okay, what if the first person coming here comes with an age of 12? With the age of 12, will you be capable of entering? That's what we're going to check. So we run the program with F11. Well, you see, nothing shows, nothing pops up here. That means you can't actually enter that stuff. So you didn't actually make any decision with the situation where the person is not actually above the age. It doesn't make any decision. It just makes sure that, okay, if you're actually above 18 before we can actually work with this, if you're above 20, I mean. So let's try now and give a value above 20. Let's say 23 actually. We run it with F11. So you see, you can enter. That means because this age was above 20, we had now this instruction within the if condition was now, within the if control structure was now actually, the if conditional statement was now executed. So this particular code is only going to be executed if and only if this condition is true. That's that for the if conditional statement. So next we are going to be talking about the if else conditional statement. So you're going to be asking me like, okay, what's the difference between if and if else? Well, in the previous case, like you can see, we didn't actually give anything. We didn't say anything about what happens if the age is less than 20. We didn't talk about that. So trying to talk about that, we are now going to be making use of the if else conditional statement. In this particular conditional statement, what happens is that it verifies if a condition is true. The condition is actually, if the condition is true, it executes some particular program, some particular instructions you would have asked it to execute. And if it is not true, it actually does something you would have told it to do when it's not true. So if we are to apply an if else conditional statement, the if else conditional statement is just like, well, if We give a condition. If this condition happens to be true, then the instruction one, for example, is actually performed. But now, beside the if, there is now an else. You say, okay, else. We now give a you give now an instruction too. So what happens is that it actually verifies if this condition is true. If this condition is true, then this particular instruction is going to be executed. And if the condition is not true, then this other instruction is going to be executed. This is the standard structure for the if else conditional statement. So without wasting time, let's actually implement that in our previous example. Like, what happens if he comes with an age of 12, for example? Well, let's just tell him you can't enter. Say, okay, else the printf telling the user you can't enter. Well, let's just try to be polite and say something like, sorry, you can't enter. Let's actually execute this program and see how it works. So we run it. The age here presently is 23. So you can enter because age there is 23. Let's try with let's give a value like 2, for example. So if your age is 2, what happens is that it says, sorry, you can't enter. Basically, that's the difference between the if conditional statement and the if else conditional statement. The if conditional statement doesn't take into consideration the situation where the condition is not validated, while the if else conditional statement actually takes into account both the situation where the condition is validated and is not validated. Hoping you have gotten that. Let's work now on the next conditional statement. The next conditional statement here is the else if conditional statement. Well, it's kind of crazy, yes. There is a if conditional statement, the if else conditional statement, and the else if conditional statement. What's the else if conditional statement all about? Well, what happens here is that in the situation where a condition is not validated, another condition is checked. Let's try to implement that in our code. We say, well, before implementing it, let's first of all kind of get the standard structure. So if it works with an if, in the if you have a condition. After the condition, well, within the parentheses we have some instruction. If this instruction nevertheless is not being validated, well, out of this if instruction, we are now going to be giving it an else. We are going to be giving it an else actually. So after this condition, we check another condition. So is the else, excuse me, else if we give another condition. Then well, from here you can now give some instructions you wish. So that's that. You check this condition. Is this condition valid? It runs this. If this condition is not valid, then it checks another condition before it actually valid. So, well, if you wish to modify that in this situation, we can say something like, okay, if his age, if the user is not above 20, then we try to check is the person is at least a teenager. Like, is he above 13? Let's say, okay, if the user is above 20, we say, okay, printf, you can enter. But if the user is not above 20, we give a condition like else if in the bracket we say, okay, age is at least greater than 13. We now print sorry, you can't enter. Might be give something else like tell the user something like try next door. The program verifies the user's age. If the user age is above 20, it permits the user to enter. But if the user's age is not above 20, it checks if the user is at least a teenager. So if the user is a teenager, then we say, okay, sorry, you can't enter here. Try next door. Something of that sort. We give a value to the age. Say age maybe 15, for example. So we run these using F11 for an age of 15. We say, okay, sorry, you can't enter here, try next door. That's that. So that is that for conditional statements, the first branch of conditional statements. See you in our next video where we're going to be talking about the switch case in C.